Oh, here they come.
Yes, they're here, folks. It is that time of year, a celebrated time in the Media Boat
Oh yeah, that's why
household.
I'm dancing over here.
That's
Just
why you're
celebrating.
dancing. We have Oscar nominations. It is awards season. It is time for the most awardiest of all award shows. The Academy Award nominations happened on Thursday morning, too early for me to see live, that's for sure. I was sleeping because I respect myself. But I was able to see the recording of the version of the announcements, and yeah, I got kind of an idea of where we're at. Some big surprise snubs, some not so surprising nominations, but let's start with the big record setter this year. The top movie in number of nominations this year is Emilia Perez, the musical from Netflix about a Mexican cartel leader who fakes her death and undergoes gender transition, but cannot avoid the people in her former life. It has 13 Best Picture nominations this year, besting Roma as the most by a non-language English language film in Oscar history.
Other
Also up
way, it
for the,
has 13 nominations, including Best
or
Picture.
sorry, I said Best Picture.
Yeah, it's
Sorry,
saying it's the
yes.
13 Best
13
Picture
total
noms.
nominations, including Best Picture.
Yes.
Uh, Also up for the top prize of Best Picture are Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, which I will talk about later in the show, Conclave, our
In
pick,
Conclave.
Dune Part 2, probably your pick. I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and a big surprise swing, and Wicked. Yeah,
You know what that means. They
full
used all
10.
10 slots.
Got the 10 pack, but you're probably thinking, wait, isn't something missing? And yes, Media Boat Film of the Year Challengers did not make the Best Picture nominations. In fact, it's not in any of the nominations at all. Probably this year's biggest snub. But before we move on to our opinions about the nominees, let's finish the story here. Your number two in nomination count is Wicked, which got 10 nominations this year, including for its stars Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, tying it for second most overall with The Brutalist, which also got 10, including nominations for Adrian Brody for actor, Guy Pearce, and Corbet, the Brady Corbet, that is, for director.
Mhm.
Conclave and Complete Unknown drew 8 nominations each, while Palme d'Or winner Anora had 6, and the wild horror tale The Substance drew a surprise 5, including Demi Moore, who got nominated after she just won for the same role in the Golden Globes. The Substance's director, Coralie Fargay, it's French. I don't know. I'm probably
For
butchering it.
Ja.
Forgeat?
For Joe. It's
Also
EAT.
got
It's Joe.
nominated. Yeah, maybe. Also got nominated. However, directors of Frontrunner, Conclave, and Wicked did not get nominations. So yeah, sorry, John M. Chu. You'll have to chew again, because you're not in the running. So yeah, besides the big challengers snub, how are we feeling about these nominations?
Depending on which websites you're up and reading, the number one film with the top go-getters, Emilia Perez, is a very polarizing and controversial film,
Yes.
especially since it just won the Golden Globe for
Mhm.
musical and comedy.
Yeah, I talked
Uh,
about a little bit. I talked about that subject a little bit when we talked about the Golden Globes. Yeah, it's depending on who you talk to. There's all sorts of things that are wrong with it. Its use of being a musical, especially from what I gather, its depiction of Mexican culture and Mexico as a country is very questionable from the feedback I've seen. And, also, from the other end of the spectrum, it is a story about a trans woman, which is by itself very divisive, especially in these days, in this political climate. We don't have time to get into this last week. It's been a mess and just, yeah, anyway. But
it's
yeah,
only been a week.
it's only been a week. Can you
No,
believe
it's only
that?
been 5 days. That was
Yeah, it's
Monday.
only been 5 days. It's not even a complete week. Needless to say, yeah, you're right. It is quite a storm of controversy.
The other film that also got those nominations, aside from Wicked, which is probably everyone's favorite going into it because it's a popular film,
Sure.
is The Brutalist, the
Yeah,
3.5 hour film that I, for the life of me, cannot find time to watch
no.
because it just happens to be a 3.5 hour long film.
Yeah,
about
no.
brutalism architecture
And the thing is
or
that we can't
brutalist
even watch
architecture.
it in the yes, brutalist architecture. We can't even watch it in our homes yet because there's no home release. It's not even on VOD yet. So,
No, it won't be available in VOD until next end of next month,
mhm.
and then on streaming through A20, I think it's A24 and A24 and HBO Max in April, 100
Which
days
is
later.
after the ceremony. So
Yeah.
this is going to be a weird one. For we usually try to be completionists and try to get everything watched before, at least the Best Picture nominations, watched before the ceremony. But I don't know. The Brutalist might slip through the cracks, which is unfortunate because it has momentum right now and is an early favorite.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is tricky.
Especially since it won for Best Drama at the Golden
Yes.
Globes. And I think, what's his name? Brady Corbett, they mentioned, won directing at the Golden Globes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, we don't have an opinion about it for a
Yeah.
very long time. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the Brutalist.
We already know what's going to happen with the Brutalist, right? Everything's going to lose to Conclave.
Well, that's what we can hope for.
Yes, Team Conclave
Um,
here.
any other notes or surprises as you're looking at that list?
Uh, no, very expected here. I think a lot of the surprise comes from the two nominations from The Apprentice, both
Yeah.
Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong getting the acting nominations in a yet another semi-controversial film
Yeah,
being
yeah, I
made.
guess.
Well, controversial on like which side you're talking to, who you're talking to there. But let's go to one of our favorites, the screenplays. So for the adapted screenplay, we have A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Nickel Boys, and Sing Sing. And then as for your original screenplays, there's Honora, The Brutalist, September 5, The Substance, and A Real Pain.
Yes, that is the one single nomination for A Real Pain, the movie we talked about last week. Um, I've since seen it. Um, we don't need to talk about it again.
You
But
agree
I'll
with what
say,
everything I said about it then?
you know what? Not
Not
quite,
really?
actually.
No?
So your thoughts, by the way, for people listening, are up on mediaboatpodcast.com now, so you can read fully what Mike's takeaway from the movie was. I'll just be brief. I think I get what you're saying, but I don't think that the script or the movie intends to compare it, the two. For context, the movie is both kind of about this group of people, especially Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin as cousins. They're little pains that they deal with, these traumas that they've gone through in their lives. And then, as you mentioned in your review, it's juxtaposed against the backdrop of a tour that takes them through places in Poland relevant to the Holocaust, including a concentration camp. And you felt in your write up, and when you talked about it on the podcast last week, that there was it almost felt like that they were belittling the smaller traumas because of the juxtaposition, and basically that the Jesse Eisenberg character especially is used kind of to say, no, these small things don't matter, you have to remember these bigger things. Or sorry, I got that reversed. The Kieran Culkin
Mm-hmm.
character is there to kind of be like tell the audience, at least from your perspective, that no, this bigger thing is more important and you need to kind of focus on that. I don't necessarily think that that's what the film was doing. I think that the Kieran Culkin character is not necessarily the person you should be listening to. And so that's why I push back a little bit about that. I think it is just a film kind of like Tar. Remember how Tar
Mm-hmm.
from a couple of years ago was presenting these two very like just presenting this character as take it or leave it. This is who this character is morally, like whether you morally agree with them or not. And at the end of the movie, they kind of give her a punishment, but it's really still open to interpretation about whether she was wrong. You have to kind of deal with that yourself and sit with it. I think there's this film is doing something similar with Kieran Culkin's character. And so I don't think you're supposed to take it as the film saying that this is more important. I view the film and like the title, I feel backs this up, is about all sorts of different pain and talking about like all of this can be gathered into kind of one feeling and that none of it is being belittled, that you can go through these traumas because trauma has always happened and cultural trauma is not necessarily separate from those individual ones.
Right, but Kieran's character was also belittling like his own pain, trying to say like it's
Right.
nothing for you to worry about. Trying to
Yeah.
like basically using his own defense mechanism of deflecting from his own pain to
Mhm.
point to other people like, oh, like there's pain, there's pain, there's pain, there's
Right.
pain. Like, don't
Yeah.
worry about me. There's when there's other people out there, even though Jesse Eisenberg's character constantly throughout the film is worrying about him.
Yeah. Uh, uh, Christy, when we talked about the film after we watched it, put it really well, which is like, no, it is a film about tourism in a way, both physical tourism because they're on a tour, and also tourism to other people's pain, right? You are just visiting there. You are an outside observer. You don't know what individual people, especially people you just met, are going through. You are just there to see it, to take part in it, but you will never actually know what's in it. And I think that, yeah, so I think you're right. I don't think that the film is making a statement for or against what he does. I think it is saying there are people like this. I've met people like that Kieran Culkin character. They can be insufferable. But again, you don't know what's going on there. You don't know the whole story, the whole context. Jesse Eisenberg's character knows more context, especially in that scene where he goes on that monologue about the
Mhm.
context and kind of reveals this extra layer
At
to
the
the
at the
audience.
dinner table, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but even he doesn't fully know, right? And so that is, I think, the theme of the story. I don't think, yeah, that's kind of where I landed on it. It's like, no, I think that it's saying all of these things are happening. I don't think it's comparing.
All right, kind of went on a
Anyway,
sidetrack there with the real
yeah,
pain.
we did. But yeah, a real pain. So yeah, a real pain only nominated in that original screenplay category, seen nowhere else except for Kieran
Mhm.
Culkin's nomination for supporting. That's fine. I don't think the direction in that movie is particularly of note. I think it's good and serviceable, especially during the concentration camp tour scene is very, reverent as it should be in with that kind of subject matter. But I don't think it necessarily warranted a nomination.
Mhm.
So,
All right. So let's talk about the biggest snub, which is not Conclave, Challengers
yeah,
Score not being nominated.
yeah, that's a big surprise considering that they've been nominated and won before. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. It is sad to see them left out here. I don't know. I honestly have no explanation for why.
I mean, you have it going up against The Brutalist, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Wicked, and The Wild Robot. Which, when we talked about Challengers, that score felt like an extra character in that film,
Yes.
especially when
It
it keeps
yeah.
coming in right in the middle of everyone's dialogue.
It felt like a slam dunk, and it makes me wonder if there's some sort of politicking going on behind the scenes with challengers. It makes you wonder if there's a larger like was there possibly a larger movement amongst Academy voters to like exclude it for some reason?
Hmm.
I don't know, but it certainly feels that way.
Certainly does.
Hmm.
And our last category that we always love to talk about, animated feature,
Yeah.
where we have Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot.
I'll say this is as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is the most loaded this category has been in probably a decade.
Hmm.
Like, I honestly don't know. Like, if any of these could win.
I've seen people make cases for Flow. I've seen people for Wild Robot, Wallace and Gromit. Whenever Armin comes in here, they're always a strong
Yeah.
case. And even Inside
Yeah.
Out 2 from Disney, from Pixar.
Right. And, Pixar, strong track record. Wallace and Gromit, strong track record. It has a lot of Oscars under its belt as a franchise. Um, then Flow, interesting, possibility here. It won the Golden Globe and it is also nominated in foreign film, or
Yep.
sorry, Best International Film as it is now known. So that dual nomination is fascinating. It lends it some power here. Um, Wild Robot also dual nominated this year for its score. So also has some surprising momentum. Like I said, this can go
Mhm.
possibly, I don't know. They could we might have a split vote situation here just because of how powerful these nominations all are.
I mean, that's not to say that any of them are bad compared to the other. It's just
All
that
right.
it's a strong, like I said, a strong year for
It's just
animation.
strong. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's kind
As
of
you
how
mentioned,
this year,
in
yeah.
yeah, international film. It
Yeah.
is a flow you have there. You also have Emilia Perez nominated for Best Picture. I'm Still Here, nominated for Best Picture. Then you also have The Girl with the Needle and The Seed of the Sacred Fig.
This is the first year in a handful of years where our rule doesn't apply because there's not just one Best Picture nomination here, there's two.
Yeah.
So who knows? But it's probably Amelia Perez.
It's probably Emilia Perez, especially
Ugh.
because it's like I said, 13 nominations. I think two of them are for original song too.
Hmm.
So it can't go 13 for 13 no matter what.
No. Yeah, what I'll say about the Amelia Perez thing is it's gonna be unfortunate. It's such a weird thing to do because when we do our predictions, we work on trying to actually predict what will win, not necessarily what should. And that's going to be really
Yes.
rough this year because Amelia Perez is going in with a lot of momentum, a lot of talk, and controversy aside, that talk itself is going to translate to votes and it's going to translate to Academy voters, like favoring it regardless of the noise happening behind it. As much as we love to have, the bad publicity sway opinions, we've seen that it doesn't really do that. And that's how you get your green books and
Hmm.
crashes of the world. And we already see that conversation starting to crop up is like, if it does take this, it's going to be another one of those marks on Academy history. I could be wrong, and it would be nice if I was wrong, if that maybe this voting block doesn't necessarily agree. But yeah, it's going to make our predictions hard because I'm going to have that voice in the back of my head being like, it has that spark right now, unfortunately. And it could take a lot of these categories. But God, I hope it doesn't.
That's why you're going to see Dune Part 2 rise to the top above everybody.
You know what? In another
Everyone's
year,
number two
maybe.
is Dune Part 2.
In another year, maybe, but I really feel like it is an underdog, especially in the
You
best
mean
picture
like
race.
the previous year when it should have come out? Oh, wait, no,
Yeah.
that was
Hmm.
against Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Yeah, no, it still would
Did
have
not.
lost.
Still a
But
loss.
that's it. Yeah, no, I really feel like
Yeah,
the
unlike last year where like Oppenheimer like was going in as like the clear front favorite, like everyone's just gonna vote for it.
there's
Not so much
yeah,
here.
it feels a little bit like a three-way tie, I want to say right now, momentum wise. I think the Brutalist, Amelia Perez, and Conclave
Conclave.
maybe are going in as the strongest competitors here. Honora being the dark horse pick, I think, because
Mhm.
that could sneak up. It's a young movie with young energy, young director, young stars. It could have some surprise juice. um Compared especially to the aging cast of these other movies, incredibly aging when you're talking about Conclave.
Mhm.
It's a great movie, but it doesn't necessarily have a lot of youthful energy. So there's a lot of questions going in here. Nickel Boy is an interesting option here, especially considering how it's shot. It's a very
A lot of
innovative
first
first
person.
person
Yeah,
kind of thing, which could lead it to surprise some people. The Substance, also an outside pick. It is a movie about Hollywood. Hollywood eats that up. It could surprise us. Wicked, again,
I
as you mentioned
think
at the
with
beginning,
yeah,
has the audience
I think if the
power.
substance gonna win anything, it's gonna be Demi Moore's for
It's
leading
yeah,
role.
that's probably your winner there. Yeah, I don't know. This is a weird year, and I think it's going to be extremely hard for us to do our predictions. By the way, after last week, I was wrong. I double checked. I updated that document.
Yeah.
And before I updated it, I forgot. Oh, I actually won last year. I wasn't super off.
Oh, on the Oscar picks,
Yeah, we had last
I
year,
think
or
between
last
us, you
week.
won.
Yeah, last week I think that I had said that we both did really badly, but I guess I narrowly beat you. But
You
but
know,
we'll see.
14 out of 24, still barely beating.
But
or
yeah, we'll
whatever we
see
had.
what happens this year, but it's going to be a bloodbath. I have this feeling right now that I have no idea what's going to happen.
uh, I mean, we don't have to wait that long.
Right?
March.
Yeah, March. All
All
right.
right.
Any other things to wrap up to say talk about the Oscars until
Well, people will get nominated. We'll see what happens. We
all
have
right.
SAG right before it, which is the biggest
Yep.
voting block. We have the DGA before it, which is also a huge swing of where things are going to go, and the
Mhm.
PGA, the Producers Guild. So,
Right. So more awards to come, more data for us to crunch before we actually make our picks.
yes.